Well, hello guys. I am making this video today for a couple reasons. The first reason is because I really want to tell you about the rabbits. I've heard so many people, so many homesteaders, mainly couples, say, well, my husband is in charge of this on the homestead. Well, my wife is in charge of this. You know, it's kind of like, this is your job, this is mine, and we kind of make it work. And our homestead functions a lot of the same way. Ginger has a lot of things here that she does, and I have a lot of things here I do, and occasionally they overlap, but and this is one of those things. But generally, by and large, most of the work in certain areas on the homestead are reserved for me and for her, depending on what they are. The first thing that is really top of the list for my responsibilities here is the rabbits. The rabbits are really interesting. I started doing research into rabbits back last year. Actually, last summer, it was around this time, middle of June, or maybe it was July. And I think we went to get our first rabbits. Actually, I think it was right around the middle of July. So we got our first rabbits in the middle of July, 2021. Made a lot of mistakes, and we're still making mistakes, right? Which is why I hesitate a little bit on this video. But I'm going to give you what I have. I decided to make it a series because I think it's just too long for one video, and I think if you're looking for one specific thing about rabbits, it'd be easier to break it up into different videos. So we're going to be doing a series on rabbits and different things about them. The first video is, very simply, starting with first base, and that is, are rabbits right for you and your homestead? So that's why you're here. Are rabbits right for your homestead? When I first started doing research, I was looking for an animal that was pretty prolific, something that would give us a lot of meat, fast producing, and something that we had room for here. And where we are right now, noise is a factor, so needed something quiet. We had thought about quail, but we didn't get into quail because quail are where we are, it'd be hard to house them. We just don't really have much of a place. So I started doing more research, and I found out that rabbits are the fastest producing, most prolific mammal on Earth. And that is for a lot of reasons. They have a lot of kits or babies, and their gestation period is usually 28 days. Sometimes you could get 26, sometimes you could get 30. I don't think we've ever gone over 30. And you're going to have a litter of 6, 8, 10, maybe even more rabbits, and then they'll grow out. That's the first thing to think about, is why you're doing this. Now, sometimes you can sell them. Rabbits right now are a little on the expensive side because feed is so expensive. Talk about feed in another video, so I'm not going to get too much into that. Proven bucks and proven does, which it just means that they have produced a litter successfully. And around here where we are, a proven doe does not mean they just had litters. It means that they had litters, and 50% or more of those litters have survived to maturity. So maturity in most cases, that's kind of a loose date, but it's at least 8 weeks. Some people say maturity is, 12 weeks or 16 weeks. It's at least 8 weeks. So if they had 10 and 5 survive or more to maturity, then they are considered proven, which means they are a successful parent. So those bucks can go for like $30, $40 maybe, and the does can go for like 60 or 70, depending on the breed and depending on your area. Everything's different. And I also would like to say that a lot of this information, this whole series, is really dependent on your area. I'm trying to make some disclaimers as I go along, but know that for wherever you are. That's the first thing. Is it right for you? Because there is a lot of expense to this. As I said, they're not cheap. They also require cages. Now for us, I'm not going to go into this too much because we are going to do a housing video on them and how we house them. But the cages, we use dog crates, old dog crates mostly. We did have a hutch that someone gave us, a friend, that works. But cages are not cheap at all. We got into a pinch where we needed cages, and we had to buy several from Tractor Supply, and the Tractor Supply cages really are not that great. And not only that, but they are not that cheap. They're about $35 or $40 a crate, so you do have to keep that in mind. There is some expense to this. The overall 100% bar none largest expense you're going to have with rabbits is feed. And again, that'll be more in another video. The other thing about rabbits, and this is the biggest thing that I want to say, rabbits take a lot of time. Okay, I'm out here right now. It's about 7:30 or so. I do morning and night rounds. I call them rounds, but I do morning and night rounds. So in the morning I come out, I feed the mamas and the babies in the morning, every morning, just because they really need to be fed twice a day. So I make sure they're okay, come out, check on them. If any of them need water, I do that. And then, you know, at night I do the main feeding, which is what I'm doing now, which means everybody gets fed, even the mamas that I fed in the morning, everybody gets checked, everybody gets water. And that's the way we do it. I used to feed them in the morning, the main feeding, but with me going to work and stuff, it was a little too much, so I decided to move it tonight, and I switched them over, you know, to make it easier. But all in all, guys, the morning and night feeding, regardless of when I do the main one, takes me about 2 hours. You know, sometimes if it's quick, I maybe can get an hour, but realistically, it's about 2 hours. Now that is a lot because of our setup. Our setup is not one giant cage wall where there's cages, you know, and I just go over and take care of that and I'm done. They are spread out, which again, I'll get into in the feeding video and why we do that. In the housing video, there are reasons, and it is for the benefit of the rabbits. So I would change some things about this setup, but for right now, until we actually do our move, it's not really worth it. It is a huge time expense, right? And I would tell you to do it this way. If you had a dog, think about getting a dog and think to yourself, would I have time to take care of that dog? If you're going into meat rabbits for the purpose of meat, you need to understand that if you don't have time for a dog, you probably don't have time for rabbits, because there is a huge time commitment. You know, if you have a situation where one of them is sick, the time commitment only goes up. And summer is really tough on them, especially if they're outside. We've taken some precautions. We take a lot of precautions, which will be in the housing video on exactly what they are, but there's a lot of time wrapped up in it. Ongoing cost, time, and 3, and this one's a big one, okay, too, and I'm really gonna give you 3 things here. And the third thing really is, do you have the stomach? Now, what do I mean by have the stomach? Well, we have some people in our family, my family, and they're like, you know, how can you eat that, you know, thumper? You're eating thumper, right? And not only that, but, you know, how can you process such a, you know, an animal, such a beautiful animal? And they are beautiful. I'm not going to lie to you. They are. I don't enjoy it at all. I do not enjoy that process at all. You know, I don't think any real homesteader really enjoys that process. If you do, you may want to think about not doing it. I really don't enjoy that process for chickens or rabbits or anything. I don't enjoy it, but it is something that we appreciate. You know, obviously the rabbit has given its life so that we can eat. We do really appreciate that, obviously. But I see some people talk about, well, you know, who could come out and process rabbits? If I had to pay someone here, if I wasn't doing the processing and I was paying someone, this would really not be economical, like on a lot of levels. You know, we're already spending $100 a month or so on feed, so it probably really is not worth it. I mean, even if they're charging you, you know, $10 a rabbit or $5 a rabbit, it, you know, you do 10 or 10, you know, 10 for $10 or 10 for $5, you're 50 or $100. And I think that's pretty cheap these days. So it's really goes back to kind of like the cost, but, you know, also if you're able to process yourself, you know, you can buy some good knives, which in the processing video, you know, which we will do one of those, I'll kind of go over like what I use and how I do it. I have a really simplistic system here because we're not doing anything permanent, you know, with a move. So I'm just have a really easy makeshift system. In fact, the makeshift system I have really doesn't work that well. So I'm looking at kind of reinventing that to do the next processing, which I'll be processing probably later this week. I have a couple. So you really want to think about that. Now, if you go through these things and you're like, Nick, I want to get them, I really like them. The next thing that you need to think about is breeds, and there's a lot of different breeds. Personally, what we do here, Flemish, New Zealand, and Californian mixes. I will say I am impartial to Californians. I've seen a lot of different breeds of rabbits, and I will tell you the Californians are my favorite because they are like little sausages. Those things are so fat. It's incredible, and I don't say fat like, oh, it's fatty meat. They're just big. They're big, solid rabbits as opposed to Blemishes and New Zealands. Do your homework on that. I don't recommend like just straight New Zealand or straight Flemish, because Flemish have large bones, so you're feeding bones, not meat. And New Zealands are kind of small, so you know, the breeding, those two works well. We've done that. We've had mixes before, and they've turned out really well. Decide what breed you want. There's so many breeds out there I couldn't even tell you in your area. Some are probably more popular than others, but those are kind of where we favor. That's what we have. They're popular around here, so that's what we have access to. If you've still gone through all this and you're good and you can stomach it, and you know, if you got your breed down, how many do I get? Well, that's a great question. You know, I would say to start out with 3. 4 if you can. 1 male and 3 females. Reason being is because people will tell you, and even sort of how I told you, not exactly, in the beginning of this video, rabbits are very prolific with an asterisk. Sometimes the breeding doesn't work. You go on YouTube, you think, oh, 3 fall-offs, no problem. Oh, I saw 3 fall-offs, she's pregnant now. Not necessarily. I've had quite a few where that's not the case. And I don't know why. It just, I don't know. We have one right now who is pregnant, we think. She's doing about 7 days, so we'll find out. But it took her, she finally had a litter, and then she wasn't a very good mama, and, you know, something happened with them. But nevertheless, she had 1 litter, and we decided we're going to try it one more time. But to have the first litter that she basically, like, miscarried, to have that litter, it took her 3 tries. It was the 3rd try where she did have them. So, you know, 2 other times have fallen off and she wasn't actually pregnant. So if you do have 3 going at one time, so if you've bred them, if you've bred 3 of them, you know, 3 females, you're pretty sure shooting that you're at least going to have 1 that's going to take. I almost forgot to. Don't want to forget this one. Nesting boxes. Nesting boxes are a huge thing. You could get a nice small sheet of plywood and make quite a few, but the nesting boxes are obviously an expense. I mean, you could probably make one for, I don't know, maybe like $5, $10. If you're buying them, they're more. Some people like stainless. I'm not quite there. I do like the wooden ones. I have them, they work. I will say on the nesting boxes, do not use chipboard. What I mean by chipboard is the, you know, like plywood that's basically shredded plywood, and they, you know, pack it. I tried that. We were in a big pinch a couple months ago, and we needed nesting boxes, and I had a piece of it laying around. Thought, okay, it fell apart. It lasted 1 time. That was it. So you really do need to use real plywood. I recommend 1/2 inch or even thinner. You don't need anything crazy. 3/4 inch we did try. It's very heavy for no reason. It adds no benefit. So, you know, 1/2 inch, maybe even 3/8 if you can get it. Don't need nothing crazy again on that. So just to think about that, you know, also when you're thinking about cost. So guys, if you've been through this video this far and you've, you know, you're like, yep, got the money to do it, want to do it, done a lot of research, got my breeds picked out, got all this stuff down, got my cages, got the rabbits, started breeding them, God bless you. You're on a fun road. We have, you know, again, we have quite a few rabbits here, and it is fun. It is so fun to watch them. And God bless you. If you're like, I don't know, you know, do some more research into it. There's lots and lots of research to be done in this field. There's a lot of people doing it right now, so it's a good time to get into it. But if you've done all that, don't worry. There's going to be some more videos coming on our setup, a little bit on our setup, and you've seen that already through this video, through the clips. But if you're like, hey, I want to do this, or what do I have feed them? How do you feed them? You know, all this different kind of stuff. I do have lots of tips and tricks for that I will be sharing in other videos that will be forthcoming. So stay tuned for that. Well, guys, as is my custom, of course, the last few minutes, I have no idea where it went. I know it was recorded, but I'm still learning the GoPro, so bear with me. I figured rather than seeing my ugly old face, you might want to see some rabbit footage. So I just wanted to jump in right here and just wrap it up by saying thank you so much for watching and commenting and subscribing. It means a lot to us. And furthermore, I haven't said it on the channel, but I will say it here. I have had some computer issues as of late. I believe they are all sorted out now. Haven't had issues for the last couple of edits, at least for the editing of this video. But we were down for a few days because I was working on the computer, and I think we're good to go now. So I appreciate all your patience, and please, if you have any tips about rabbits, share them below, because
We are always looking for tips, as I said in this video, and I will say in the many, many rabbit videos to come. I'm not an expert, Ginger's not an expert, we're not experts. We're always looking to improve our system. So please like and comment and share your thoughts and ideas with us. We would love to connect with you. Until next time, thank you and God bless.